Welcome to Hack the Entrepreneur, the show which reveals the fears, habits, and inner battles behind big-name entrepreneurs and those on their way to joining them. Now here is your host, John Naster.
Hey, this is Hack the Entrepreneur. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I am your host, John Naster, but you can call me Johnny. My guest today is a battle-hardened investor, seasoned trader, advisor to top brands, and an entrepreneur. After spending a couple years as a real estate agent, my guest founded Hartwood Capital, a private investment fund focused on high-risk, high-profitability options trading. He is currently the founder of Make More Marbles, a productivity, personal development, and finance hub. Taking what he's learned from starting and managing a successful private investment fund, my guest now helps train entrepreneurs to become more focused and effective. Now, let's hack Brad Hart. I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, ActiveCampaign. Companies are using marketing automation, and they're seeing 53% higher conversions than those using traditional email marketing. ActiveCampaign enables you to send perfectly timed messages in response to your customers' actions and behaviors. Treat your contacts as unique individuals rather than sending everyone the same message like I've been doing for the last couple of years. With marketing automation, your campaigns can listen, learn, adapt, and respond, all based on your contacts' behaviors. Plus, it's a beautiful, easy-to-use platform. No need to hire consultants. You can set it up yourself. Trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. See why thousands are upgrading to a more intelligent marketing solution. Sign up right now for a free 14-day trial. No credit card needed. Visit activecampaign.com/hack. No training fees, no contracts. Pricing is accessible to any business. Plus, for being an exclusive Hack the Entrepreneur listener, you're going to get free migration from your old provider. You're going to get your second month of service for free. Plus, you're going to get a free one-on-one strategy session with a platform consultant. You can use this during your free trial if you wish to give yourself a jump start. Start marketing smarter today. Go to activecampaign.com/hack for your free 14-day trial. We are back with another episode of Hack the Entrepreneur, and today we have a very, very special guest. Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, John, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure, man. Absolutely my pleasure. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a blast. This is a long time coming. We've been trying to put this together for a bit now.
Yeah. Oh man, it has. I'm going through the emails like, man, it's been a long time. So let's jump into it.
Right on. Go for it.
All right, Brad. As an entrepreneur, can you tell me what is the one thing that you do that you feel has been the biggest contributor to your successes so far?
Yeah, that's a great question, John. So for me, I've failed a lot, right? And I think any entrepreneur will be able to tell you that, right? I've been kind of doing entrepreneurial type stuff since I was 21, 22. But even when I was 13, I was mowing lawns and kind of knocking on people's doors for odd jobs and things along that line. So I think the thing I'm not ashamed to do or afraid to do is to really ask for what I want and to kind of, hedge my bets by creating an abundance of things, right? So what I mean by that is I don't focus on any one particular deal or one particular contact or one particular relationship or one trade when I ran my hedge fund. Like it was all a counterbalance of having a lot of different things going on so that at any one time, a lot of things were working out, even though a lot of things weren't necessarily working out or never went anywhere or were false starts or failures, right? So when I'm kind of going in a direction, I don't focus on just, oh, it's got to be this thing or that thing. I try to get enough things kind of in the pipeline so that, one of them inevitably works out. Like, for example, when I raised money for my hedge fund, I talked to 200 people to raise from 17. Now, a lot of people would look at that as 183 failures, or 173 failures, whatever it was. But for me, it was actually 17 wins, right? So that's how I look at it. And the thing was a success, and we did really well with it. So, I think my strength is in understanding that you're not going to get up to plate and hit a home run or a grand slam every time. But even Babe Ruth struck out 7 out of 10 times.
That's very true. And this idea of not being afraid to ask for what you want.
Mhm.
Can you like elaborate on that sort of like is this something that's sort of innate within you or something since being in business since 21 years old that you've realized you have to just ask for what you want?
Yeah, I think life is a game of rules, and there are rules you need to play by, but you kind of get to make up what they are to some extent, right? As long as they don't A, hurt anybody, and B, defy the laws of physics, right? You can kind of make up everything else you want, right? And life is really made up, by people and power structures and corporations and government agencies, and they're no smarter than you necessarily, right? They're just doing the best they can based on their particular needs and the situation at hand. So for me, being able to ask for what you want, there's somebody out there that can give it to you, right? There's people with billions of dollars. There's people who have traveled to the moon. There's people who have gone to the depths of the ocean. It's because they asked for what they want and they're willing to go out and recruit the people, tools, resources, connections, whatever they needed in order to make that happen. They weren't willing to sacrifice the vision. They might have changed their approach, and the vision might have turned out slightly different than what they even imagined. But even at that rate, maybe it turned out even better, right? So I think being able to get really clear on the vision and then ask is a huge, huge part because you don't have to have everything, right? There's a huge community of people out there that may align with your vision and goals, and it's just a matter of finding those people and inspiring and leading them toward victory in that particular instance.
Life is a game of rules, but you can make them up. I like that. It's a good way to put it because it is. It is a game of rules that we have to follow within certain structures, but also you can define those rules.
Yeah.
If you have that mindset about it.
Yeah. And I think I just took a landmark course. This is fresh. And I've done a bunch of personal development work like Tony Robbins over the years. But one of the things they say in landmark is like, living in integrity is not what we think it is. It's really, is your life working or not? Right. So it kind of counterbalances that theory of like, okay, we're making up the rules. And if the rules work for everybody in the situation, then they're the rules, right? We play by those rules, but they're kind of, aside from that, totally made up, right? At the end of the day, it's just whether do they work or not.
Yeah. And this landmark and then Tony Robbins, have you always been into like self-development and growth in that way?
Yeah, I think my first personal development book, actually, this is kind of going back a while. When I was 19, I read a book called The Game by a mentor and friend of mine named Neil Strauss, and maybe you've heard of it.
Yep.
It's a book about how he was a pickup artist. And when I was 19, like I didn't know anything about women. I didn't grow up around a lot of women. I'm an only child. My mom was always working. So I didn't really have that part of my life figured out whatsoever. So this book was like opened my eyes to like, oh wait, there's people living like this whole other lifestyle that I have no idea about. And I never wanted to be like a crazy pickup artist. I just wanted to be able to talk to girls. So this book was like awesome for me. And then fast forward, I end up being the guy who convinces Neil to get married after being the pickup artist. We're on a hike in Machu Picchu, oh God, 7, 8 years later. And, I'm just like, dude, do you want to have kids? He's like, yeah. He's like, all right, cool. I'm like, do you want to be the guy who's 70 years old at his kid's high school graduation? He's like, no. I'm like, well, you got about 4 or 5 years to figure that out. So, you got a great relationship right now. I think you've kind of proven to everybody, including yourself, that you can do this. Now, what's the next step for you? Like, is this just becoming a compulsion? Is this something that you want to keep doing? And some of that was integrated into his newest book, which is really cool. But yeah, Neil's been a mentor to me. That was kind of my first kind of toe dip in that water. And then many years later, I think I was like 26 years old, maybe. I had a bad breakup. I had a girl that wanted the white picket fence in the house, and she had the dog picked out, and his name, the name of the dog, and what the color of the dog's collar, all that picked out. And I was kind of resisting a little bit at the time. It was really funny. And she, I went away on vacation with some friends. I came back and she broke up with me. A week later, she's dating another guy. So, maybe she cheated on me and maybe she didn't. But it was like so freaking painful that I didn't have, like, I literally couldn't cope. Like, it kind of shocked me into, oh my God, this emotional wreck of a roller coaster. And like for the next 3 months, I was like totally destroyed. And I ended up going to a Tony Robbins event just because I was just like, I got to do something different here. Like, this isn't working. I got to be able to control this emotional stuff. And people have been telling me for years, despite all my success, that I wasn't very emotionally available. And they were right? It was totally true. So I had to, as a coping mechanism for all these years, I had been blocking trauma and staying logical and not being in my emotions. So Tony Robbins really blew that open for me. So that was like my second really big foray into the personal development world. I went crazy on it. I went to 9 different Tony events. I got really involved in that community, contributing and growing with them. And it's been an amazing journey. So I credit Tony with a lot of my recent success as a human. just because, his formulas and strategies and kind of ethos really resonated with me at that time in my life. I thought it was a really powerful thing. And I'm not saying it would be for everybody, but for me, it was excellent.
That's awesome. And this Neil Strauss book, The Game, would you recommend it to people who aren't even looking to pick up, but are looking to maybe be able to just like network and communicate better?
Yeah, I think social dynamics is basically what they call the whole field. It's like the study of human interaction and behavior and how to win friends and influence people for the modern age, right? And there's a lot of different companies that teach this type of stuff. And I've met all these guys, right? I've met all these so-called pickup artists, these gurus, these social people, and they're fun. They have great stories. They're fun to hang around. So even aside from the whole picking up girls thing, which is a nice side effect, I think, if you're a guy, to have women desire you, is you become a more interesting and interested person. You learn how to socialize in a more interesting and engaging way. And I think part of that is, I think it's really important just in the modern age to be able to differentiate yourself as somebody who, A, gives a crap about people, B, is willing to give more than they receive in all circumstances, C, has an abundance mindset about relationships, about communication, about openness, about honesty, and D has a certain set of values that portrays them to the world, in a way which is not in conflict, but in flow, if that makes sense, right? So you can get into situations that other people wouldn't even have the courage to think about or ask for, which is kind of tying back into what I said earlier,
It is, yeah. I love the become a more interesting and more interested person. I think that's so key, is that whole idea of actually being interested and not. I think most people try and, when they're trying to break into this, like, I'm going to go to this conference or something, I'm going to be super interesting, and everyone's going to want to just hang out with me. It's like, actually,
you come off like a tool. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't tell anybody about myself until they ask, right? I'll just entertain them. I'll ask them about themselves. Where are they from? What are they into? What are they excited about? I'll never ask them, what do they do? That's a terrible question. And everybody asks that. Like, be different, be interesting.
Yeah.
And people will naturally gravitate towards you. I think that's just a matter of course. And then if you couple that with an entrepreneurial go-giver spirit, which is a great book, Bob Burg, if you haven't read it, is putting your best foot forward. Hey, how can I help you to achieve whatever you're trying to achieve in the world? Right? What's your big dream? What's exciting? What gets you up and out of the bed in the morning? And then immediately contacting that person with a person in your network or a link or a resource or a favor, whatever it is, like just putting your best foot forward. My general rule in life and sales and strategy and people is like, what can I do for you? Right? It's like, how can I put my best foot forward? How can I leave this human better off than I found them after this interaction, no matter what, right? Whether it's a sale, whether it's a referral, whether it's a link, a resource, a book, whatever it is, even if it's a nice thank you note or a pick me up or a inspirational message or whatever it is, just try to add value in every situation. And I think your life will open up as a result. Nobody hates that guy that's trying to help all the time.
That's true. Does this tie back to your sort of one thing where having, like, rather than asking one person, you ask 100, or like keeping those sort of fires sort of burning? Or
yeah,
does that allow more, I guess, potential avenues for things to happen and open up in your life?
Absolutely. So I'll just give you an example. Recently, I think I was trying to hire a video editor or somebody who was going to help me with a Kickstarter project. Actually, there's a couple different things. And I my Facebook is kind of my microphone. It's the one I use the most. So I go out on Facebook and I say, hey, does anybody know X, Y, and Z? And like 50 people will put comments or shoot me messages. And it's like kind of overwhelming. I can't even look at them all. But it's really fascinating to see like all the people come out of the woodwork over the years of like, oh my God, it's an opportunity to help Brad. And they're like all over it, right? They're asking everybody. And that's not because I'm so great. It's just because I decided to put my best foot forward in every situation and try to, again, leave everybody I meet a little bit better off than I found them. And it's not the same as being a martyr, right? I think Gary Vee said it best. He's like 51 give, 49 take. I think that's a good way to live your life, but it's got to be somewhere in the realm of giving more than you take.
Right. But it can just be just barely more. It doesn't have to be.
Well, because and abundance is kind of my buzzword, and that doesn't mean anything to a lot of people. But to me, abundance is not just giving; it's giving and receiving in abundance, right? If you're missing one, then you're not in abundance; you're actually in scarcity.
Oh, nice! I like that. So it's the abundance of giving. It's the abundance of, I guess, everything within your life, in and out.
It's flow, right? If flow goes both ways, right? It's got to come towards you, and it's got to go away from you. I mean, you having more, if you're a person that uses your resources in a way that helps others, is actually beneficial to life, and life supports that, which supports life. And that's a Tony Robbinsism. Nice. Right. So the more you do for others, the more is given to you as a result in the natural course of things. I mean, it's like the honeybees, right? I always look at the honeybees as a great example of they don't know they're saving the world when they go out and get pollen to make honey. They don't know they're pollinating everything that lives and sustains us. They have no idea. That would be too much for a little honeybee.
Or do they?
But they do.
Or do they?
Right. Maybe they do. But humans can affect the world in the same way, but they're afraid of their actual power in a lot of cases. They're afraid to really succeed at doing this because, of any one of a million reasons. But they can also, in going out and making businesses and creating wealth and creating babies and creating love and relationships, they can also change the world like the honeybees, but maybe they don't realize the implications, or maybe they do and they're afraid of it.
Are you afraid of it?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, we all have this light inside of us, right? It goes back to, I think that was a poem that Nelson Mandela was gonna recite in a speech that he was gonna give before he passed away. It's not our darkness that scares us; it's our light. Shrinking is not serving anyone, but shining brightly and giving permission for others to do so as well is really the way to go. I don't know the whole poem by heart, but it's a fantastic poem. I'm sure you've heard it before somewhere.
Mm-hmm. So
maybe we could pop a link in the show notes.
Yeah, we definitely can. So at the beginning, you said not afraid to ask questions, and then obviously keeping this networking, just giving and getting that flow sort of going. Now, every business expert talks about the 80-20 rule in business, right?
Of course. Do
that 20% that gets you the 80% of results. Do what you're good at, delegate the rest. We've talked everything about what you're good at in business, Brad. Can you tell me something that you're absolutely not good at in your business?
Yeah, I'm terrible at a lot of things. And the funny thing is I thought I was good at them. So it's actually, you got to really check in with yourself on this type of stuff. So are you familiar with any work by Roger James Hamilton? Obviously you've read Tim Ferriss because you know the pre-show principle. Roger James Hamilton is a Australian guy who lives in Bali, and he has this thing called wealth dynamics and a couple other things. But the wealth dynamics test essentially assigns you one of 8 different personality types, which kind of brings in elements of I Ching and the seasons and like Myers-Briggs and a bunch of other pieces, but it's very practical. And it's basically a way to find your flow as an entrepreneur. And I love wealth dynamics. I think it's great. And, it pegs me as a supporter, which is more like a Jack Welch, Michael Eisner, Howard Schultz type, Sheryl Sandberg, very extroverted, very people oriented. And, that's where I should live. But for a long time, when I was running my hedge fund, I was actually doing the exact opposite of that. I was living more like a Warren Buffett or a John D. Rockefeller or a Mark Zuckerberg type who would be behind the scenes kind of building systems and, trading or evaluating the systems or, creating an avenue by which value could be measured and directed in such a way and resources could be directed in such a way as to grow the pie for everybody. But really where I should be is over here with people. So what ended up happening was I had this hybrid where I was doing 5 different things in my job, working 16, 18 hours a day, managing customers, relationships, writing their quarterly reports, negotiating with exchanges, trading, actually doing the trading every day on the hedge fund, right? And doing all these pieces. I was good at some of them and I was great at others, but being in flow requires that you spend the most time possible doing the things that naturally hours would pass and you would love. Like right now on this podcast, I could talk to you for 4 hours and I love it, right? I love this opportunity to share my gifts and to teach people what I've learned and to learn new things and to touch another life. Like if this goes out to one person who gets something out of it that's valuable, like mission accomplished. So that lights me up. But what doesn't light me up is sitting behind a spreadsheet, right? What doesn't light me up is, being behind the scenes. That's just never going to be me. I need to be out there on the front lines. And, I think everybody has that thing that puts them into flow. It's just a matter of finding it and then living it. And I think the risk of not doing that is you not only deprive yourself of living in flow and doing your best work and being a world-class player at something, but you also deprive somebody else of a perfectly good job that might put them in flow. So you're actually screwing 2 people. You're screwing yourself and the person that should be doing that job.
Oh, there we go. Cool. Because that's what I wanted to get at. How do we, or how do you know what you're not good at? We all kind of have a feeling of what we're not good at and what we are good at. But I think we feel that when we're starting out, we can't hire people to fill any other position. And therefore, we get stuck doing the crap we're not good at, and we never get to that sort of flow state.
And that's the whole make more marbles philosophy. I don't want 100% of nothing. I want to make a bigger pie and make more so that everybody can do their thing and make more as a result in aggregate, right? So Deloitte and Touche is a big consulting firm and accounting firm. They're the top 4, right? And they do $15 billion a year. But they're not one guy. It's not one guy named Deloitte and one guy named Touche, sitting across from each other at a desk, staring at each other, saying, "Oh, we're going to turn 15 billion." No, it's 50,000 people working around the world, around the clock, in various different angles and their strengths, making it all happen for Fortune 1000 clients, right? So, in order to do big things and have a lot of people taken care of, solopreneurs, they have it all wrong. I think you need at least 3 people with complementary skill sets to cover everything that a business needs. At least 3. It might be more, right? But at least 3 is a good base. If you have like a good, solid people person, a good customer service type person, and a good numbers type person, then you got sales, marketing, leads, value delivery covered, products and services. Like that's the pieces that need to get covered, or you don't have a business, you have a hobby. So if you're not strong in if most people are strong in at least one of those areas, they should partner up with at least 2 other people, or maybe you need a resource partner, right? You need somebody with the finances, or maybe you need to partner with a larger firm in order to cover one of these pieces until such time as you can do it in-house. But there's always a piece, I don't care who you are, where you should focus and you shouldn't focus, and you should partner up or hire for. And otherwise, like, you're going to be spinning your wheels.
Right. So there's the key though. Is it partnering up or is it hiring? Like what do you see if there's an idea right now you want to execute on, would you, and you are, I'm assuming you're the people, not the numbers of the service person.
The people for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have that covered. Would you aim to hire somebody to fill the other 2, the numbers and the service, or would you look for a partner who that is their sort of strength?
Yeah, I think I would start with a client, right? I would start with the problem first and see what kind of value I could add. And from there, so that would start with a conversation, John. If I was going into a new business, I would be talking to people about what their problem is and really getting to understand that, because that's where my strength starts. And that's where it kind of goes from. And then when I say, okay, cool, I think we can do that, then I turn around to my network, which I've been building forever. And I say, all right, these are the pieces that we need to solve this problem by this time and for this amount of money. Cool. Now, who do I know that can help fill in these gaps? And then it's basically a matter of, okay, this project's already sold. I just go to my people and I say, all right, well, we need this, that, and the other thing. I've got a team of 10 people. So this is actually pretty easy for me. And I say, all right, this person needs a Facebook ads campaign or YouTube ads campaign or LinkedIn or whatever. Okay, they need ClickFunnels pages. Great. Okay, now they need an Infusionsoft that plugs everything together and sets up payments, right? So that's the whole kind of value chain of a business and online, for example, where it's like, all right, we've got a way to attract customers. We've got a way to turn those qualified, interested people into buyers, so sales. We've got a way to deliver value, a product or service, and we've got operations and resource management and optics to understand what's happening in that business so we can make smart decisions about how to invest in it. And that really would allow us to quickly suss out what's an opportunity, what's not, what are our swim lanes, where do we play, where do we not play. And then we can go slightly outside of that. We can be a little flexible, but if we can focus and niche and really get it right, then we can scale quickly.
Nice. So that's what you start with a client, and that's what you do for them. Is it the same process you would do personally if you came up with an idea for a new project or a new business? Would you follow this same sort of path to determining whether it's viable, or would you take a different approach?
I think it's exceptionally important to start with the problem first, or the person that you're trying to serve, or the company that you're trying to serve, because that's what all businesses do, is they solve problems, they serve people. Right? At the very end of the day, the person paying for that product or service is a person who has a problem that needs solving or a desire that needs fulfilling.
Right.
Right. And when you start there, it becomes really easy to cut away all the garbage and all the BS. And whenever I coach somebody, it's like, well, who's your client? Like, let's start with that. Who are you taking under your wing in order to get from A to B? What are the goalposts? What are the gaps that you're trying to fill in? What are the desires you're trying to help them to achieve? And if that is clear, all these other pieces are in support of that, in alignment with that. If not, you end up in this thing where it's like, oh, well, I got to have a LLC and I got to have business cards and I got to have this and I got to have that. And you do everything but do business. You end up playing business. And what ends up happening is you don't serve anybody, including yourself.
Yeah, this is definitely an issue. So when you say start with the problem or start with the person, do you mean with the idea of the person, like a written out, like this is what they're going to be like? Or do you mean actually find somebody to pay you?
No, like actually find somebody and solve their problem, right? That's the best way to figure out and test whether a business is going to work. It's the same as a beta or a pilot. It's the same as building a minimum viable product, like an Eric Ries type of deal. Lean startup. It's the same as, it's being said all over the entrepreneurial community and being pointed at in a variety of different ways. But I'm just saying, from my strengths, I would start with the person, right? Who is the person or company or organization who has a problem that I feel like I can solve? Like, so let's just use a recent example of something I'm thinking about getting into. So I believe a huge opportunity for global world changing like energy ubiquity would be to begin to, so like Tesla owns Solar City, right?
Yep.
And they make these batteries. They got this gigafactory coming out, and everybody knows about Elon Musk and Tesla. It's not like a new thing, but what most people don't understand is that Tesla has opened up their entire patent portfolio so that anybody can come along and white label their products. Or at least that's the way I understand it. Now I would, maybe have to talk with their lawyers to figure out the ins and outs of that, but that's an opportunity, right? You can go and sell, if you have the means and the wherewithal, those exact products white labeled to other people, right? And that's a huge problem, right? Energy storage, energy generation, building out solar farms and ways to store that energy could get entire communities and municipalities off grid. So maybe like the city of Boulder, let's just use an example. I'm sitting here, right? And they have, energy dependence. Maybe they're using coal and oil to currently meet their power needs. What if we could take some of their parts of their town off a grid, right? And on a pilot basis, work that out. So who would I talk to about that? All right, well, maybe I'd have to go down and talk to the Boulder City Council or talk to whoever's in charge of that and have a conversation with them and say, listen, Tesla's doing this, Solar City's doing that, and we have all the space over here. Why don't we put some solar panels out there and some batteries and see if this works for people on a small scale, right? And would you be willing to test it out? You guys are green. You guys are, you have an initiative to be that shining beacon of a city on the hill. And I think this solves a lot of your problems, and it might actually save you money, right? If you can make it a fiscal argument as well, where it's actually cheaper in the long run to do this and get subsidies and government assistance as well, then it also starts to become more of a no-brainer. So like just getting that first problem solved and that first issue would be key. And once you have that, then ideally you'll have the resources from that one deal to do another deal. And maybe then you begin investing in systems and processes and people where it's like, okay, cool. Now we've got, a way to attract these people or these situations that we can help implement this in other areas. We've got sales team, working to do that. We've got the value delivery ladder set up, products, installation, et cetera. And we've got optics and resource management that allows us to invest, keenly and awarely into growing this whole enterprise, right? That might be a way I would start a startup that's, I think, could change the world, right? If we get off energy dependence, like Elon was talking about, 2 billion of these power walls could power the whole earth, transportation, the grid, the lights, everything. I mean, that's a pretty special thing. If we could help bring that about, and I'm not saying it would be just my company or just his company. He's even said, the reason I'm putting these patents open out into the market is because I know I can't fulfill this demand over the world, right? So that's a huge opportunity for any entrepreneurs, who have the vision and have the foresight to be able to say, this is a huge gold rush. Getting people off of fossil fuels is massive, right? It's not a matter of when. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. So if you want to create massive wealth and help the world, go do it, right? I'm saying there's the game plan. Go for it.
Yeah, and because I think he's open sourced like the patents and everything on it, right? I think he did that for the cars too.
That's my understanding, right?
Yeah,
that all these motors, all these batteries, everything that's under their patent portfolio is essentially open now. Now, again, I don't know the ins and outs. I haven't done the due diligence or research. My goal is to actually get involved in something like that. I think that's a better use of, as much as I love digital marketing, like at the end of the day, we're just moving more products around, right? And it may help people and they may not, but like that's something I can point to say that would change the world if we could not have dependence on oil and coal. And I know there's a lot of people but I also know that it's like a company like ExxonMobil, she's used for an example, which my family, my great uncle invested in Standard Oil a long time ago. So like we've invested in these companies for a very long time. They perform a service which is valuable, right? They keep the lights on. The oil is necessary to power and fuel our economy. But the very second, when it becomes more profitable for them to switch to green energy, they will do it because they are a profit-driven company. The second that tipping point happens, they are now ExxonMobil, the green company. And they've been buying up green technology since the 60s and 70s, to my understanding. So like, I don't think it's a matter of we want to sell oil or we want to pollute the planet. If it's easier and cheaper and more profitable for them to do the green thing, they're going to get on board. It's just finding that tipping point. And I think all of us individually have more power than we realize to start moving in that direction. When economics comes into play and when the science and study of human decision-making come into play and say, hey, we can tip this thing over to make it profitable and a no-brainer to do it this way, and it's actually better for everybody, then it'll happen, right? Because then they'll be in a competition with everybody else who realizes this is a better idea and they don't want to be the dinosaurs. They want to be ahead of it. So they'll start putting their billions of dollars of resources and lobbying into changing the game.
Right. Right.
But that's the point at which it all shifts.
And
to me.
you like it because it feels like it'll change the world rather than just shifting products and money back and forth with digital marketing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I think that's fine and valuable. Like people get value out of that, but there's also like, what's the highest and best use of your time here on this planet? That's the question I keep asking myself. Have problems and challenges that are worthy of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But I was fascinated when you said like approach the city of Boulder with this idea and really just make the sale. If it's a sale that can be made.
Sure.
So this is the same thing you've probably worked with people and that we do online is if you have an idea, don't try and create the whole, especially if it's software or something, like don't build the whole thing, like try and sell it first. See if people,
sure.
And in a pilot launch or whatever you want to call it. But so with this sort of scenario of approaching the city of Boulder, would you say offer them like a pilot project pricing for like a first to get like testimonials and stuff? Like I'm just trying to
whatever it took, John, whatever it takes to get it done, to get somebody committed and saying yes, right? The whole process of enrolling somebody into your idea or vision is a process of getting to yes, right? When they're on board, everything starts falling into place. Everybody starts pulling in the same direction. If you're, I'm using the two fists together motion right now, but if you're fighting in two different directions, then nothing happens. But if you can get enrollment and engagement on some level and we're pulling in the same direction, then magic starts to happen. Other things start opening up. Dominoes start to fall, right? And it doesn't have to be the whole enchilada, but if you can get one foot in the door and start doing something that's moving in that direction, and that's a win, you can build on that.
Oh, that's so what I wanted to hear. That's awesome. That was, I felt like we had to close that loop. And it's really that. It's that, I guess it's abundance, but it's also kind of a sales, but it's also just making things happen attitude, which is you just have to get to yes in some way so that it's beneficial for both parties.
And it's a win-win across the board. I think that's the key, right? Sales is not me imposing my will or doing something harmful. It's win-win-win for everybody.
Exactly. All right, man, this has been a blast.
Absolutely.
I want to wrap up one final question for you if I can.
Yes, please.
Yeah, this idea I'm working with calling the entrepreneurial gap, which seems to be this gap we live in as entrepreneurs, as dreamers. We're always projecting our personal successes into the future, meaning no matter what you accomplish and from the outside, how successful you look, from the inside, your success is going to be in 3 months when you hit that metric, in 6 months when you hit that other goal. Yet you and I both know, Brad, that the second before you hit that goal, you're going to set 5 bigger ones into the future. And I agree we have to do it, but sometimes we end up in this gap where no matter what we accomplish, we never see ourselves as successful. So you've been through a lot, you've accomplished a lot, and you have big places you want to go. But I would love it right now if you could stop, look behind you, the highs, the lows, the wins, and the losses, and tell me how you feel about the whole journey up until today.
It's more magical than I could have ever imagined. So here's the thing about life, and this is not me, this is Steve Jobs, but it's pertaining to this particular discussion. I'm always in this mode where I'm always comparing, right? And, Steve Jobs had this quote about you can't connect the dots looking forward in life. You can only connect them looking back. And that's true. Another thing is like if you read Carol Dweck or if you listen to Todd Herman's 90-Day Year, a lot of great ideas about this. They call it the ow versus the wow brain, right? It's like the difference between looking into the forward, into the future and seeing all the things you have yet to do, which creates this chasm of despair. I'll never get there. Or looking back and seeing just how far you've come, right? Look at where I was when I was a 19-year-old who couldn't talk to girls. And now look at me, at 31, I've got a wonderful relationship with a beautiful woman. We're looking at houses. Like there's just so much going on that I couldn't have even anticipated back then, right? And the same thing with entrepreneurialism. Like I'm just not afraid anymore of the things I used to be afraid of. My comfort zone has expanded, and the things that fall within that comfort zone are a lot bigger. Now there's still things that I need to push and grow and do all these things, but ultimately, like I just have learned to accept the journey for what it is and to enjoy that journey, because the destination will never make you happy. We made $1,040,000 in a month between all my partners and in May of 2013. And I thought that was going to be like the big win, right? My ego would be satisfied and everything would be great forever. And it just fucking wasn't, excuse my language. And then I had a little bit of a spiral, right? I thought that this relationship or this place I would get to or that, but then I started to realize after a while, like it's never going to be the destination. It's always the journey. It's always the excitement. So yes, set new goals, be excited, and understand that life is not a journey. The only destination is death. I'm sorry, life is a journey and the only destination is death. That's the only time you get to stop. That's the only time the problems stop. That's the only time the challenges stop. Otherwise, the rest of your life is going to be occupied with the very real task of growing and contributing at a higher level. And if that's not the game you want to play, that's cool, but you also won't get the benefits and the rewards of that. And believe me, the benefits and the rewards of living a life of growth and contribution are just staggering. They're incredible. And they pile on top of each other. They become exponential, and they just create so many openings for other people to shine as well. So if everybody were to do that, the world would shift immediately. But right now, most people live in fear and comfort, or they shoot for things like certainty, or they shoot for things like significance. They want to fill a hole that can never be filled. So if they make that switch to I'm on a journey and I'm just trying to do a little bit better than I did before, then the destination becomes irrelevant.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said, man. All right, Brad. Could we take a moment to just tell people where they can track you down online, maybe social media, and then also your site?
Thank you, John. Yeah, I'd love to be in touch with anybody. If something I said shook something loose, I'd love for you to send me a note. I could be found on Facebook, facebook.com/Brad Hart, BradHart, one word. Or you can check me out at my site, makemoremarbles.com. That's MakeMoreMarbles, makemoremarbles.com.
Very cool. Very cool. I will link to those also in the show notes for you. So when you've settled down a bit, you can head over to Hack the Entrepreneur. Make More Marbles. I'm going to find a link to the Nelson Mandela poem. I believe you said Bob Berg, put your best foot forward.
Yeah, Go Giver. And also he's got a book called Endless Referrals, which is really great too.
Excellent.
But Go Giver is like a quick read. Anybody can knock it out in an hour.
Very cool. As well as Neil Strauss, The Game we talked about, and also...
Yeah, The Truth. I think if you're going to read The Game, read The Truth as well, because that kind of completes the circle.
Okay. And my favorite book by him is Everyone Will Love You. Everyone Loves You When You're Dead. I freaking love that book.
That's a great one. Yeah.
And then Roger James Hamilton, Wealth Dynamics, and some Tony Robbins, and then facebook.com/Brad Hart. I'll link to all that in the show notes for you.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, Brad, once again, man, thanks so much for stopping by. Thanks for sharing so openly, man. Please just keep doing what you're doing.
Pleasure's all mine, John. And thank you for everybody who decided to invest time with us today. We really appreciate it.
I have to admit it. I screwed up. I was focusing on building email lists for the past 2 years with Hack the Entrepreneur, but I was sending out messages that weren't targeted or personalized to you. But that's going to change because I'm moving my email marketing to ActiveCampaign. And I reached out to them in December, told them about the move, and they've decided to sponsor the show for the next couple months. ActiveCampaign enables me and you to send perfectly timed messages in response to your customers' actions and behaviors. Plus, I've got you 3 cool things. You can get a free migration service right now. Get all your contacts list templates moved from your old provider. You'll get the second month of service free. Plus, you're going to get a free one-on-one strategy session with a platform consultant. Go right now and sign up. activecampaign.com/hack. You start with a 14-day free trial, no credit card needed, and then you're going to get free migration, a second month free, and a one-on-one strategy session. Well, that was a lot of fun. I really thoroughly 100% enjoyed that conversation. And I guess we've reached the point now in the show where I need to go back through that conversation. It's always fun being part of the conversation, and then it's a whole nother experience to go back and listen to it as that third party like you. So I went back through the conversation, and then I went back through the conversation again, and then I went back through the conversation again. That third time through, there was one thing that Brad had said to me that I don't know how I missed it the first few times, but I did. But this time when I heard it, it was so very, very clear. It was the one thing that Brad said. Did you get it? Did you hear it? Let's do it. Let's find the hack.
There's somebody out there that can give it to you, right? There's people with billions of dollars. There's people who have traveled to the moon. There's people who have gone to the depths of the ocean. It's because they asked for what they want, and they're willing to go out and recruit the people, tools, resources, connections, whatever they needed in order to make that happen. They weren't willing to sacrifice the vision. They might have changed their approach, and the vision might have turned out slightly different than what they even imagined. But even, at that rate, maybe it turned out even better.
And that's the hack. Brad. I love this. This is like the ultimate hack for 2017, I would say, thus far. if you want something, if you need something, if you need help, if you need advice, if you need guidance, if you just need to know what the next step is, ask for what you want. It literally doesn't get any simpler than that. And I know that it seems maybe oversimplified and like maybe it's too vague, but it's really like I don't know how you can expect to get something or get an answer to something without asking. And this is something that we need to learn. I mean, there was a book that became like a bestseller last year, the year before, called Ask. It was, I mean, based on like funnels, but it was really based on asking for what you want and getting that from your customer. But you can get this with mentors, coaches, partners, anybody or anything that you need to go out and ask for it. It's hard to do it first. Yes, I fully agree. It's hard to do the second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time, but 10th time, 20th time, 50th time you do it, it will get easier. Don't just ask and take, but also be willing to give back to other people, but really don't be afraid to ask for what you want, because that's how we get what we want. And Brad talks about billionaires, people going to space, people doing huge things. And he's absolutely right that those people are doing those things because they ask. And then maybe rather than sacrificing their vision, maybe they'll realign it with information they get back. But that's how you get where you want to go, is by asking for assistance, asking for guidance, asking for help, asking for funding, asking for the sale, whatever it happens to be. That really, truly is it. Brad, thank you so very much. All right, hacktheentrepreneur.com. We're having a lot of fun this month and leading into this whole year with email automation. I'm going to be teaching how to use it on the site with some articles I'm going to be writing for you, but we changed from ConvertKit over to ActiveCampaign at this month, and then I reached out to them and they actually decided to sponsor the show as well, which is very cool of them. Make sure to check it out if you want to get that second month free, plus a free setup at activecampaign.com/hack. But I've been using it for the past week and a half now. And so it's not fully set up on the site, but the automation's amazing. I'm a visual type learner and user of things. So to have like a mind map type thing right on my page that I can move things around, and it's emails and when they're going to be sent and how and to whom, it's really cool. I've never actually seen anything quite like it. So I'm really excited to get it on there. So go to hacktheentrepreneur.com, get onto the email right at the top if you wish. If you see any issues right now, it's because I'm working it out, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We're doing some cool stuff over there. If you have any questions about email automation, by all means, drop me an email and I'll see if I can answer it for you. I'm just getting into it, but it's pretty cool. All right. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really do truly appreciate it. And please, until next time, keep hacking the entrepreneur.